Few Roman rulers caused such horror and scandal as Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus, better remembered by the nickname Caligula. From AD 37 to 41, his short reign shocked Rome with public executions and theatrical claims to divinity. These claims showed themselves in unpredictable acts of cruelty that disrupted the workings of both the Senate and imperial government. According to ancient sources such as Suetonius and Cassius Dio, Caligula's behaviour was reported to range from personal grudges and forced payments to incestuous relationships and invented military victories, all of which turned early hope into fear. Caligula was born on the 31st of August AD 12 in Antium, a resort town on the Italian coast that would later produce one more emperor, Nero. He was the third child and second son of Germanicus and Agrippina the elder. From birth he belonged to the imperial family as the great-grandson of Augustus, and as a child he travelled with his father's army in Germania, where soldiers dressed him in a miniature uniform. As a result, he earned the nickname Caligula, or Little Boots, a reference to the military sandals he wore when he lived among the troops. Germanicus died suddenly in AD 19 under suspicious circumstances. Many Romans believed that he had been poisoned, possibly by the governor of Syria, Gnaeus Calpurnius Piso, although there was no clear proof for the accusation. Following this, the family's high status attracted dangerous attention from Emperor Tiberius, who viewed their popularity as a threat. Over the next decade, many of Caligula's relatives were imprisoned or killed, while he remained under close watch. By AD 31, he had joined Tiberius on the island of Capri, where he lived cautiously under the protection of the praetorian prefect, Quintus Naevius Sutorius Macro, who had previously helped eliminate Sejanus, but avoided attracting suspicion. Following the death of Tiberius in March AD 37, Caligula took power with the help of Macro and the backing of the Praetorian Guard, which ensured his rise to the throne ahead of Tiberius's grandson Gemellus. Some ancient sources claim Tiberius's death had been sped up by Caligula himself, though modern historians regard this as unproven speculation. When Caligula entered Rome, he received immediate public support, largely due to the fond memory of his father Germanicus, and the general hatred of Tiberius's reclusive rule. At first, Caligula made some popular reforms. He abolished certain unpopular taxes, allowed political exiles to return, permitted public shows to resume, and promised to respect senatorial authority. For a short period, many in Rome saw him as a generous and just ruler. Coins depicted him with titles of power, statues appeared across the city, and citizens toasted his name at religious feasts. However, soon after, his conduct changed. Later in AD 37, Caligula reportedly fell very ill. Ancient accounts described a dramatic change in his behaviour after he had recovered, although the exact nature of the illness remains unknown. Some historians have suggested he may have suffered from epilepsy, a brain infection such as encephalitis, or even poisoning. After he had returned to power, he executed Macro and forced Gemellus to commit suicide. He also ordered the deaths of several senators, magistrates, and equestrians, under accusations of conspiracy or disrespect. Over the following year, he demanded that statues of himself be placed in temples across the empire, and sometimes they even replaced traditional gods. He issued an order that a statue of himself be erected in the temple in Jerusalem, a move that caused panic among Jewish communities, and led the governor of Syria, Petronius, to delay the order to prevent revolt. In Rome, he commanded priests to worship him directly, and declared that he alone held the claim to be a god. Caligula reportedly treated his family as if they were gods as well. He especially favoured his sister Drusilla, whom he elevated above other citizens, placed at his side in public processions, and, according to hostile sources, engaged in an incestuous relationship with her. When she died of illness in AD 38, he buried her with honours usually reserved for deified rulers, reportedly bestowed upon her the title Diva Drusilla, and declared her a goddess, though there is no firm evidence that the Senate formally ratified it. Simultaneously, he drove the Senate away by mocking its members and forced them to compete in games. He accused them of cowardice when they hesitated to follow his unpredictable instructions. During public festivals and gladiatorial shows, he often interrupted proceedings with personal speeches, humiliating declarations, or acts of random violence. In terms of construction, Caligula emptied the imperial treasury on a range of expensive and unnecessary projects. On Lake Nemi, he commissioned 2 massive pleasure barges fitted with marble columns, plumbing systems, mosaic floors, and gilded furniture. These ships were rediscovered in the 20th century, but were later destroyed during World War II. At Baiae, he constructed a temporary floating bridge over the sea that was made from ships tied together. He then rode across it on horseback dressed as Alexander the Great. According to Suetonius, the bridge supposedly stretched nearly 3 miles, which rivaled the Persian king Xerxes' bridge at the Hellespont. He also built new temples to himself and attempted to extend the Palatine Palace into a connected religious complex that was dedicated to his divine cult. He reportedly imposed new taxes on everything from weddings to legal proceedings and ordered the seizure of property from nobles accused of treason. Wealthy citizens often faced arrest without warning, and their families watched helplessly as their homes and titles collapsed and their fortunes disappeared into imperial accounts. During his campaign in Gaul and Germania in AD 39, Caligula staged an elaborate and strange display of military theatre. According to ancient writers, he ordered his soldiers to line up along the shore of the English Channel and launch an attack on the waves by stabbing at them with their swords. He then had them collect seashells and declared them trophies of war from Neptune. Afterwards, he returned to Rome to celebrate a triumph for a campaign that had secured no new territory. Although modern scholars debate whether the event unfolded in the manner described, the story appears to reflect widespread Roman disbelief at the way their emperor treated warfare, religion, and public spectacle as tools for personal fantasy. When the Senate failed to challenge Caligula directly, he mocked their silence and filled public offices with loyalists who held no prior experience in government or military command. Suetonius also claimed Caligula had planned to appoint his horse, Incitatus, as consul, a detail some interpret as political satire. By AD 40, Caligula's behaviour had become so extreme that conspirators within the Praetorian Guard began to plan his assassination. The tribune Cassius Chaerea and others had grown tired of Caligula's frequent public insults, especially those that mocked his voice and masculinity. On the 24th of January AD 41, Caligula walked through a covered passage near the Palatine Theatre, where the conspirators attacked him with daggers, and he received over 30 wounds before collapsing to the ground. Soon after, his wife Caesonia and infant daughter were murdered to prevent any claims to the throne. Some senators discussed restoring the Republic, but the Praetorian Guard intervened and declared Claudius, who was Caligula's uncle, the next emperor. Within days, statues of Caligula were reportedly toppled, bronze ones melted down, inscriptions were chiselled away, and his decrees were annulled under the legal process of damnatio memoriae. According to the surviving sources, Caligula's reign apparently descended into madness, yet modern historians remain cautious. Since many of the written accounts came from senatorial elites or later writers with clear agendas, the accuracy of events such as the Seashell campaign or his planned appointment of the horse as consul remains unconfirmed. They likely reflected Suetonius's satirical tone rather than actual political acts. However, Caligula's open contempt for the Senate, his wasteful use of public funds, his claim to be a god, and the climate of fear within the imperial court all appear consistently across multiple sources. His downfall revealed the limits of imperial propaganda and the instability of a rule based on personal loyalty rather than institutional restraint. In the end, Caligula's story endured as a warning about the consequences of power without accountability rather than as a record of achievements. I hope that you have learned a lot about the Roman Emperor Caligula. If you would like to know more, be sure to check out the free resources on the History Skills website. I look forward to seeing you on our next video.